a little past 4 in the morning here this morning, and it's early. I've long since been fascinated with writers and their writing routines, often taking inspiration and inserting some of their writing routine into my own. My writing routine, well, it's recently vanished, becoming sporadic and uninspiring. And this week I came across an interview with Harry Styles and Haruki Murakami. The interview was about art, writing, and Murakami's book, what I talk about when I talk about running. I've always been curious on Haruki Murakami's writing routine. And so I'm gonna try Haruki Murakami's 4 a.m. writing routine this week. And when I say a week, I mean a working week, because I work a full-time job and this challenge is insane. And I think I'm already biting the candle at both ends. So yeah, this should be interesting. So welcome to a new series where I try my favorite authors' writing routines. I've seen other writers try out writing routines and this style of video, so this is nothing new. However, seeing as though I'm an early morning person, I'm a runner, and I am a writer trying to rebuild a writing routine, I figured it would be a fun challenge to undertake Haruki Murakami's 4 a.m. writing routine for this week. Oh boy, here goes. In preparation for this video, I reread Haruki Murakami's 2007 memoir, What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. The memoir details Murakami's dedication to long-distance running and the running of a marathon, and how that parallels with the writing of a novel. It chronicles the lead up to the 2005 New York City Marathon that Murakami raced in. It's this fantastic detailed approach of how running and writing are on the same playing field, both an endurance sport, both something that requires patience, both something that requires dedication to be successful in. If you don't know who Haruki Murakami is, he is a famous Japanese author. His work has been translated into more than 50 different languages. Haruki Murakami, after college, started a jazz bar with his wife, and they ran that jazz bar for 7 years, until one day Haruki Murakami decided he wanted to write a novel. His first novel, Hear the Wind Sing, won a prize for budding writers in 1979, and his career took off from there. Logistically, while undertaking this challenge, I am going to face a few different problems. Firstly, Murakami is a full-time author, and his writing routine is clearly outlined as a person that is a full-time author. I, on the other hand, have a 9-to-5 full-time job in a bookstore, which means that a lot of my hours throughout the day are already accounted for, which means that I need to alter this routine in order for it to work for me. Don't worry, I'm not going to alter it too much. Secondly, I live with my partner, which means that I need to be rather quiet in the mornings, which means that I need to come downstairs and write at the kitchen table. Thirdly, I'm living on Vancouver Island right now. We're at the back end of our winter, which also means cold, dark, rainy mornings. And the sunrise is vastly different in Japan than it is on Vancouver Island. Murakami, who is based in Tokyo, has the sunrise earlier for him in the day than I do on Vancouver Island. At the moment, the sun is rising at 5:56 a.m. in Tokyo versus Victoria, Vancouver Island is at 7:45 a.m. Almost 4 hours of darkness after rising. And the final problem I foresee facing is fitting in the running. 10 kilometers of running is over an hour a day for me, give or take, depending on how fast I'm running, depending on how fatigued I am, depending on the time of day I'm trying to run. I have built up a steady block of fitness. I am running frequently, but 50 kilometers in 5 days is at the upper end of my mileage. And I haven't ran that far in a week since training for a marathon in 2024. In a 2004 interview for the Paris Review, Haruki Murakami labeled his writing routine as this: when I'm in writing mode for a novel, I get up at 4 a.m. and I work for 5 to 6 hours. In the afternoon, I run for 10 kilometers or swim for 1,500 meters or do both. Then I read a bit and listen to some music. I go to bed at 9 p.m. I keep to this routine every day without variation. The repetition itself becomes the important thing. It's a form of mesmerism. I mesmerize myself to reach a deeper state of mind, but to hold to such repetition for so long, 6 months to a year, requires a good amount of mental and physical strength. In that sense, writing a long novel is like survival training. Physical strength is as necessary as artistic sensitivity. But since writers are human beings, real life can get in the way of a perfect daily routine. My routine this week goes as follows. Anyway, this is my attempt of Haruki Murakami's 4 a.m. writing routine. It's a little bit insane, should be a little bit of fun, and an immense challenge. So let's see if it works for me. Good morning from my kitchen. It's pretty early here. It's taken me a while to get filming this morning. It's taken me a while to get going this morning. Haruki Murakami is one disciplined writer. Murakami might actually be insane, but it is quiet, it is dark, and I do feel pretty good considering. The alarm going off this morning was rather jarring, and you feel incredibly vulnerable getting up in the dark and the cold and the quiet in the way that I did this morning. And I guess I'm just surprised that Murakami is that disciplined and that dedicated to his craft, because I'm struggling to keep my eyes open. I'm going to be working on a Substack piece here on art and vulnerability, and also working on editing my novel. I'm going to drink some more coffee, and then I'm going to write like Murakami. Alright, so it is 7:30 now, and this morning has been slow. My plan was to go through and sort of alter and edit 2 short chapters that I have on deck at the moment, and I slowly plucked away at one while also putting 300-ish words towards a Substack post that I'm working on. I am most certainly not in the rhythm of this challenge just yet. I'm hoping that shifts a little bit tomorrow. 4 a.m. is very early. I feel very fatigued, I feel very slow, I feel very tired. But that's all okay. We're trying, we're giving it a go. It's amusing so far. Kind of watching the morning develop has been interesting. Today I actually start work at 11 a.m. and finish at 7:30, so I'm still working my 8 hours, but it is not the standard 9 to 5 that I more often do, so I've just got a later shift. I'm going to have some breakfast and fuel up. I'm going to have a bit more coffee. I am going to write for another hour, and then I'm going to go run 10 kilometers in the rain, in the wet. Just finish up writing, and that last hour was far more productive than the last 4. My brain finally woke up and was ready to go. Last night was not a great sleep. Going to bed earlier than what you're used to is tricky, and you feel like you don't sleep, and when you're anticipating a 4 a.m. alarm, your head is just, it's anticipating, it's getting ready the entire night as you are trying to sleep. So yeah, that last hour, I got halfway through a pretty long chapter of editing, and I don't know if I've said it already yet, but I'm going through the second draft of my book and editing that second draft. It's taken me longer than I thought it would. I don't feel like I have much of a strategy in place. It's a bit messy, it's a bit all over the place. I'm hoping this challenge can almost correct that a little bit and set me on a more consistent path with that editing. It's pouring rain. I'm about to put on my rain jacket. I'm going to put on my shoes and I'm gonna go out and run 10 kilometers in the rain. Yuck. That was a very soggy rain until the rain stopped with 10 minutes to go and the wind blew me dry. I am very soggy, but I feel far more alive than I felt at 4 a.m. this morning, which is nice. That run was reinvigorating in a lot of different ways. So that was nice, even though it was very wet. I had a lot of fun out in the rain and the puddles. Now, while I feel a little bit better, I'm gonna have a second breakfast because the first breakfast feels like a million years ago. And I'm gonna get organized and go to my 8-hour work day. This is gonna be a long week. Yeah, long week. Anyway, yeah. Morning, if we can even call it that, at 20 past 4. You know what time 20 past 4 is? 20 past 4 is airport time. It's the time of day that is only acceptable to be awake if you're going to the airport. Anyway, I digress. Garmin said that I got a total of 5 hours and 20 minutes of sleep last night. This is day 2, and day 1 went better than I expected. The first half of the morning was very sluggish and very slow until I got to the second half and started waking up a bit. The riding came a little bit easier, and then I went for a run and felt very alive. And I went to work for 8 hours and managed to trudge my way through a work shift. Got to the end of the day, was still feeling pretty good, and got to the time of day that I needed to go to bed, and I wasn't even sleepy yet. So all signs are pointing up, I think. I'm going to work on my novel this morning, and I realized yesterday that I didn't tell you the project name, and I figured I should bring you guys along for that as you were joining me for this journey. It's not the title of the book, but it is the project name, and it's Project Hope. Anyway, I'm going to get stuck in, get a bit of coffee, and get to work. And turning on Murakami mode in 3, 2, 1. That wraps up morning 2 of this challenge, and this is the hardest challenge I've undertaken yet. I'm not whinging or complaining, I'm just trying to reflect the truth of what this challenge is. But from the hours of 4 till 6 a.m, those hours feel double the time. They go incredibly slow. The brain isn't quite ticking yet. The flow hasn't kicked in. You are just kind of like slowly plugging away, and it feels like a grind. But I am reminding myself today that the second 2 hours go quite well and are really productive. But what I'm reminding myself of is I chose this. This is a vessel for self-discovery, to learn what I like, to learn what I don't, to pick and take from different writers and their writing routines and incorporate it into my own. Also while having a little bit of fun. Anyway, I'm off to work. G'day guys, it is day 4 here. It's a little past 4 in the morning here this morning, and it's early. I didn't film anything on day 3 because I didn't have any energy. I really struggled with the getting up, the writing and the moving, and filming on top of that just felt like something that wasn't going to happen yesterday. But it's safe to say, on day 4, I'm uncomfortable in this challenge, so much so that it is stirring shit under the surface, and I am learning parts of myself. There is something to be learned about who you are as a person and your identity in the uncomfy, and I'm uncomfy, which is why I undertook this challenge. But something about pushing your limit really causes you to examine where your limit is, and I feel like I'm really early in examining that journey. And I wonder if Murakami has set a 4 a.m. writing routine to keep him uncomfortable. That's my 4 a.m. pondering. I'm going to sit down, have some coffee, and start editing my novel. The morning 4 work block is done and completed, almost 4.5 hours. It's 8:30 here and I'm heading off to work for 9 o'clock. This morning, again, the same repetitive pattern of the first 2 hours. I'm moving forward and I have to essentially strip it back to fix the mistakes that I make. And then I hit that 6 o'clock mark, my natural circadian rhythm, when I start feeling sort of good in the morning, and the next 2 hours fly by and I feel like I can put the work together. Anyway, I've got to run with a mate this afternoon, which I'm looking forward to, which is 10Ks, which is day 4, which will make it 40 kilometers in 4 days. And then I have 1 day left. All right, that is 40 Ks in 4 days. And I'll bloody say it, I am underdone, I'm undercooked, I have not spent enough time in the oven, which is why my legs are sore, which is why my legs are stiff, which is why I struggled on today's run. I thought I had a little bit more fitness than what I have, and I don't quite, but that is okay. I am still getting it done while also not sleeping quite enough to be running this consistently on back to back to back to back days. Less than 6 hours a night is not ideal for recovery, and I would not recommend it. This is a challenge solely for 5 days. I am not going to continue running at the frequency, at the distance that I'm running right now. I pushed through a few barriers today, pushing past those hard moments. And what I've found throughout this challenge is the run is actually the thing that keeps the ship steady. It feels like if you don't do the run, you will feel really fatigued, really tired throughout the rest of the day. Doing the run almost resets and recalibrates that whole thing, which is really nice. And I've really enjoyed that little reset. I found today was all about pushing my limits just that little bit further. Today was hard. I didn't want to run. I didn't want to wake up at 4. I didn't want to write. And I pushed past that uncomfortability and just sat with it. And that was cool. So it'll be cool to see how day 5 turns out. What I've also failed to mention until now is that Murakami, in his writing routine, spends his afternoon napping, reading, and listening to jazz. I can't nap because I don't have the time, unfortunately. However, I do have the time to read and I do have the time to listen to some jazz. And that is what I've done a couple of evenings this week. And that is what I intend to do this evening once I cook dinner. Anyway, 1 more day of this 4 a.m. challenge, and I'm really looking forward to only having to wake up at 4 a.m. one more time. Looking forward to day 5. We've reached the final day of Murakami's 4 a.m. writing routine challenge, and I'm surprised and a little bit thankful because I'm ready for this challenge to end. But before that happens, we have 1 more block of work here, so let's get stuck in. We are in the final day flow, the final stretch here. It is 10 a.m. and I've just put in a rather consistent 5 hours of work here to finish off the final morning today. I'm not working this morning, so a little bit of a change of plan. In about an hour, I'm going to go for a run, and during that run, I'm going to appreciate it all because I've done something hard, and I think that's worth celebrating in itself. So I'm going to stop, get a coffee, I'm going to hang out, I'm going to run, I'm going to enjoy my morning and just appreciate the insights that this challenge has provided into building a writing routine. Little update on the work for the week. I finished 2 essays and managed to edit 3 full chapters of my manuscript, so that was a great outcome. Granted, a lot of the work was slow. I felt like I was going backwards at times, and it'll be interesting to assess the quality of that work once this challenge is completed and I've had some rest. However, it has got the ball rolling on something that I've been struggling with, particularly the manuscript, and for that I feel pretty thankful. Winter is back after having the last couple of days in the sunshine, which means that we have grey skies and rain falling from it, and we'll have a very soggy run, but that's okay because we're on that last day high. Alrightio, that is 50 kilometers in 5 days, and I feel elated for having completed this challenge. I'm going to spend the afternoon reading and listening to jazz music to soothe this challenge out, but make sure you stick around for my takeaways and what I'm going to take forward into my own writing routine. In the meantime, enjoy the view. That was an incredibly challenging week. And I'm incredibly happy that I've undertaken such a week in the same breath. What I haven't disclosed is that I have attempted or scheduled that challenge twice before and either couldn't make it work with the week or was just not mentally able to in that week. Which is to say, there was a tremendous amount of learning, self-discovery and reflection, and now that I'm a little bit more rested and a little bit more well-adjusted, I want to share my 3 takeaways from this past week. Number 1, for most people, Murakami's 4 a.m. writing routine isn't sustainable. And I believe the best writing routine is the one that works for you and your life in that moment, in that season of time. While it can be alluring and tempting to follow your favorite writer's writing routine, it is not always in your best interest. And if you work a full-time job, this is not a sustainable routine. 4 a.m. is too early, it is challenging, and doesn't allow you the balance that you probably require in all the other areas of your life. Number 2, I enjoyed the simplicity and the quiet that this routine provided. Writing, eating, running, that's it, that's the whole thing. And that is something that I'm going to try and incorporate within my routine going forward. And my 3rd takeaway is getting up at 4 a.m. every day would sharpen the mind. I believe that Haruki Murakami gets up at 4 a.m. every day because it sharpens his mind. It keeps him dialed, it keeps him locked in to the task at hand, which is writing a book. It removes the distractions, it moves all the other elements, it simplifies his life. And I think that's why he's been so prolific. And number 4, the running informs the writing, and the writing informs the running, and the running informs everything else, and the writing informs everything else. And when you are doing those things in conjunction with one another, they feel good. Which is what Murakami and Harry Styles talked about in their interview and informed this whole challenge in the first place. So what will I be taking forward with me? The simple early mornings, the running, the writing, and the creating. I'm going to ditch 4 a.m. and replace it with 6 a.m., continuing my running journey and continuing my writing journey, while continuing to undertake writing challenges. This writing challenge forced me to be a better writer. This writing challenge made me discover parts of myself I wasn't aware of. This writing challenge challenged me, and that, I think, is valuable. And finally, I do not recommend this challenge. It's been a hard week. I have struggled, as you have seen. But if you do hard things in your life, you will grow exponentially. And I can't see that as a bad thing. That wraps up my challenge of Murakami's 4 a.m. writing routine. Thank you so much for joining me. It actually means more than I can express here. In the comments below, let me know what writing routine I should trial out next. I have a few ideas in mind, but I would be very curious to hear what writing routines you would like me to try. So thank you for watching. Be kind to yourself, be kind to one another, and I'll see you back here next week.